This is The Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. God, I love today's show. Sam Darnold in 2 hours from now, joining us live from New York. Nick Wright this hour. Man, we got good stuff. We got good stuff today. You know, let me ask you a question. How many people out there listening on radio or watching on TV? You're smart and you're really committed, but you work at a place where you just don't feel people are as committed as you. You don't think they're maybe quite as bright as you, and it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating. And that's why I'm a big believer in mobility in America. I've moved, you will move. I don't want to see any smart, committed young person trapped. You come out of college, you end up at a job, they're not paying you much. You're around a bunch of young people, peers that aren't as committed as you. They go out and party all night. I'm a big believer in you're never going to get your first job right. You generally don't get your second job right. You got to get to about your third and your fourth job when you have power and you have a choice to get it right. Right boss, right money, right vision, right coworkers. Nobody comes out of college and gets the perfect job very often. It's just not the way it works. And your second one you don't. Takes your third or your fourth. That's where I want to start with Chris Paul. Chris Paul's always been great. He was great in New Orleans. They were dysfunctional. He was great with the Clippers. They and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan were dysfunctional. But this is why I'm a fan of mobility, is that eventually Chris Paul ended up in a franchise with a general manager that went to MIT, with a basketball coach on the forefront of analytics and three-point shooting, with another self-aware alpha male, James Harden. Okay, Chris Paul's always been great, always been smart, always been committed. But no individual can overcome dysfunction. Everybody loves Westbrook and John Wall and Derrick Rose. You know what they are? They're Bitcoin. They're cryptocurrency. Roller coaster, highs, lows. I made $1 million, I lost $1 million. In a 48-year period, they're exhausting and they're exhilarating, and honey will never work again, and honey, we have to sell our home. Westbrook and Wall and Derrick Rose, and then there's Chris Paul. You wake up every morning, you're getting 10% on your money. An elite defender. Really, really smart. The president of Players Association. Smart, committed, 10% returns every morning. And oh yeah, unlike Wall, Westbrook, and Rose, he doesn't dunk like them, he doesn't jump like them, he doesn't do a crossover like them, but he actually puts the ball in the basket at a much more efficient rate. He's the safe investment. You don't have to worry about checking your 401k with Chris Paul. You're getting 10% every year. That's why I love him. And that's why I am a huge believer in player mobility. LeBron had to leave. After 7 years, Cleveland couldn't get him a single all-star level player. Chris Bosh had to leave Toronto. No other great players wanted to go there. Kevin Durant had to leave Westbrook. You can't play efficient basketball with Russell. And Chris Paul, by the way, in New Orleans, the Clippers, and this year Houston, each franchise, he set the record when he was there for the winningest season. By the way, how did that work out for Blake Griffin in that divorce? Chris Paul, without him, won 65 games, conference finals, 58-10 when he plays. Blake Griffin traded to Detroit, got a coach fired. Clippers were better after he was traded, and the Pistons in the East were sub 500. You were all in on Blake. You were never in on the 10% annual safe investment. Congrats to Chris Paul. I want to dig a little deeper as I segue to my second topic, which will sound somewhat like the first, but it is interesting. Westbrook got Paul George and Melo, and they won the same number of games. Chris Paul goes to Houston. They win 10 more games and now advance to the Western Conference Finals. Let me ask you, would LeBron ever consider playing with Westbrook? I mean, come on. I mean, that he wouldn't even take the phone call. LeBron's best friend in the league is Dwayne Wade or Chris Paul. Chris Paul's the Player Association president. The vice president is LeBron. He asked him to serve, and he did. But we keep making excuses for Westbrook, and yet we've already weighed in and decided Chris Paul's not the guy. I am a huge believer in this. How many people can you get to call on your behalf in life? How many people, when you're in crisis, like let's say it's like in a resume you have references. So just think about this for a second. You've already decided Chris Paul until last night, and now you've kind of guilted into liking him. You've already decided Chris Paul is not a finisher, and you keep making excuses for Westbrook. Here's a great testament in life if somebody's legit. Who are the 10 people who would call on Chris Paul's behalf? LeBron, the best and smartest player in the league, would call on his behalf. Hey, hire Chris Paul. He's great. Dwayne Wade, an all-time top 50 player. All three of his former coaches, the about-to-be MVP James Harden, and probably the smartest general manager perhaps in all of sports, Daryl Morey, who went to MIT. Adam Silver, the commissioner, would also call on Chris Paul's behalf. Let me ask you, who would call on Russell Westbrook's behalf? Kevin Durant? Oh, wait, time out. No. James Harden? No, couldn't play together. Former coach of the year, Scott Brooks? No, Westbrook got him fired. Current coach, Billy Donovan? If he had to, he would. Who's willing to call on your behalf? Enes Kanter, Victor Oladipo, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Sabonis, Ibaka, all got better once they left. Who calls on your behalf? The NBA commissioner has to deal regularly with Chris Paul. LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Daryl Morey, top coaches, all three coaches who have had Chris Paul have had excellent relationships with him and consider him a friend and considered him a foundational player. It is interesting, though, isn't it? Until last night, people had overwhelmingly made up their minds. We gave Russell Westbrook all new pieces this year. They didn't win an extra game. The Rockets added Chris Paul. They won 10 more games and are now in the Western Conference Finals. It's funny who we support and who we don't. You've made up your mind on Chris Paul. You don't like him. I always did. You don't like him. You didn't. Not clutch. You told me. Years. Not clutch. Not the guy. Can't depend. Can't win. And you continue to enable Westbrook. It is remarkable to me. I am so happy for Chris Paul, who has proven something that is very critical in the NBA. It's always been about superstars. And it used to be you could win a title with one or two. Now you need minimum 2 and hopefully 3, which is why the Warriors will probably beat Houston. But here's one thing I know. If you don't play well with others, Dwayne Wade does, LeBron does, Steph does, KD does, Klay Thompson does. If you don't play well with others, Chris Paul proves he does. No chance in this league going forward to win titles. Chris Paul may not win it, but he's got a puncher's chance. Westbrook never will. All right, coming up next, Sometimes people complain that the NBA, it's a little too top-heavy, great teams at the top, a handful, then a bunch of dreck below. But with just one player move, and I think deep down the NBA is a little scared of it, but oh my God, one move could create something that has never happened in this league. That is coming up. That is coming up. 1-800-Flowers. Mother's Day is May 13th. It is right around the corner, and you know that. Right now, they always pick them from the top farms. They ship them overnight, so it guarantees freshness. Right now, 24 multicolored roses from 1-800-Flowers, plus a vase, free vase starting at $29.99. Okay, your mom, your grandma, your wife, your sister. If you're thinking about just sending a text, do better, guys. You pick the delivery date. 1-800-Flowers handles the rest. May 13th, this Sunday, Mother's Day. Get on it. This offer ends tomorrow. 24 multicolored roses and a vase for $29.99. 1-800-Flowers.com, code HERD, HERD.
When you hear